Alright, so you asked for this. You wanted me to recreate the password manager and you wanted me to do a comparison between Unreal and Unity. Well, here's the Unreal portion. I'm just using the basic scene here that you get from the beginning, so if you use Unreal, obviously you're going to have to remove the player controller and that so you don't move around, but I'll just go ahead and show you real quick that this works. So we can take a look. We have our show, hide. We can generate different passwords. And in this case, it's just jumping through 2 characters at a time. You can add however many characters to this way. Give you slightly more control, I guess, over your length. Or if you want to just grab whatever and then just grab a chunk out of it. Doesn't matter. Point is, you can have your password, you got your email username, you got your website. Oh, and that's what I'm talking about with the player controller. But I'll go ahead and copy that as a website name. And you see we hit add, that goes in. We put that website name in, we do a search, we get our info again. So you can see everything's working in that. Now, how did we do this? Well, if I open up my my content drawer down here, what I'm doing is first thing I'm going to do is I come down here, user interface, and I create a widget blueprint. And this is how I'm creating my UI here. I'll just go ahead and create that, and I gave it a name. Now, my name is a WBP for widget blueprint. And next, I'm going to come up here to the top 3 icons here, where we can see list of world blueprints. And I'm just going to open the level blueprint. And all I'm doing in here is on the event begin play, so when our game starts, quote unquote game, I'm going to create this widget. And it's going to be my WBP, of course, as what I'm setting for my class. And then I'm just going to follow through and add it into the viewport. That way we can actually see it. So that's all that's going on in this actual scene here. So if I just dump out of that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the actual widget blueprint here that I made. So there you go. There's how it looks. And we can go ahead and do a zoom in on the left-hand side there. As long as I remember, hopefully I do. And you can just see that all we have in here is we have a canvas followed up by a background, so we can get that nice dark background in there instead of having something transparent, because obviously we wouldn't want to see the game world or anything. Then we have a couple of buttons, which of course are search, generate, show, and add, and they all have a piece of text nested inside of them, so that my buttons can be labeled. Ignore what you just saw there, that was just Unreal doing an autosave. And aside from that, we have an image in order to show the lock here. And then we just have 3 pieces of text for our labels here on the side, and some text boxes right here in the middle. And that's all we've done there. We created them. I did set their colors a bit because I believe these text boxes now, I think they're white to start with. So if I were to just go in one, for example, here's the text. We've got the text property over here on the right. Color and opacity, obviously we want it to be white because we want it to be visible in the stark background. You get it, right? So it works just like the inspector in something like Unity or Godot. But I've set those. Now, the main thing that you're probably wondering about is the actual code, which, since everything is in blueprints, I went ahead and used blueprints here, since that is the most common way to use Unreal from what I've seen. So if I just go over to the graph, we have a few options here. So we have our on clicks here, and the way I set that, if I just jump back over to designer, is if I just select one of my buttons, and if I come down here, we can see the events on clicked, and I just added it. That's all I did. and they show up in here. Here we go. If we just zoom in there. So if we start with the show and hide, so something like a password field, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into a branch because we want to know if the password is already being hidden, right? If it's in the like stars or asterisks, the secret characters, or if we can actually see what password is being written. And to do that, we have to actually get the password that's being passed in for us to take a look at. So we get our editable text. In my case, this is text box 1. I didn't name them. No reason, really. Just, I guess, got a little lazy there. And we are reading the value of that. So we're checking is password. We're passing it in to our condition. So we're checking if that's true. Right? So if we have the password feature ticked on that edit box, then we're going to get our edit text box here. We're going to set the password. And as you see, we're setting password to false. And we can see that's false just because we're not checking that. So with that unchecked, we're setting it to false, which means we should be able to see the characters. And then what we're going to do after that is we're simply going to set the text to whatever, or change the text of our button to go from show to hide. So if I just come back here to designer, so that's this button here, the text here on this text label, which I labeled button text. We're just changing the text here from show to being hide, based on whether it's in secret or not. And that's not what I wanted to click. My mistake. Here we go. And then if we come back to our branch, we can go down the false path, and we're basically doing the same thing, but we're doing the opposite. So we're gonna get our password text box. We're gonna set is password to true, and then we're gonna change the text on our button to say show instead of hide. Now we get into a little more complications down below here when we start getting into our data entries. So we have our add button, search, and our generate button. All right, so let's go into our add button. So this is when we're going to add this entry into our dictionary, or in the case of C++ and Unreal here, our map. So we've created a new variable here called map, or sorry, this one's called data email, and then we have one down below that'll be used later for data password. And all you do to that, if you've never done one, is just come over to the variables here on the left hand side, add a new one, and with it selected, you set it to a string, and then you'll have an icon beside it here. Just go ahead and select map, and you can go ahead and set string again. This is your key and value. So key is a string, it is a map, and the value is also a string in this case. So those are how you create those. But when our add button gets clicked, we're going to add an entry, right? So we're doing the add function here and passing in our data email. And all we're doing there is we're getting the text from our two text boxes here, which is our email and website slots. So we're getting the text and we're returning that into our add function here, our add to map. So this is giving us the top entry here is going to be the key, and the bottom is the value. So we're passing in the website as our key and the email as our value. Once that has been added in, we're going to continue through the path, and we're going to do the exact same thing but with the password. So we're going to pass in the website for our data password map. We're using the website as our key and the password that has been typed in as the value. And just to look a little nicer, we just follow through and we set all three of those text boxes that we have there for website, email, password. We just set them all to blank. All right, now when you want to use the search button, so remember, you go in there, you type in the website, say Amazon, you hit search, and then it'll fill out the email and password for you. That way, if you forgot what you put, all you gotta do is know the website, and you can see our info. So what we're doing that when the search button gets clicked, we're going to be setting the text of our two things. So we'll start at the beginning with setting the text of our email. So we have our set text box, and now we have to kind of work our way backwards. So our target is going to be our email box here. And what we need for that text is we need to use find here. So we need to find the data in our map. So we're passing in our data email into our find. And what we're passing in is what we have inside of our website slot. Because remember, this is going to be our key that we were using. So we take that, pass it into find. And if we just connect that up to set text, we'll get this to text transition between the two automatically set. So that'll get us our email. That'll get us our username to fill into the email slot based off of the website that we passed in here. And then from there, we're going to set, of course, the next text that we have, which is our password. So again, we can work backwards here. We're going to once again use a find this time on our data password. Now, we could obviously have put this in into one map, but I ended up choosing to go with two when I did this. So we're going to find a value from our data password. And what we're going to be finding, again, is going to be our text from our website box here. And we're going to export out. Of course, it's going to be our string that goes along with it, which, since it's data password, is going to be the password that gets put in and fills in that text box. And now for our little password, I was looking for a for loop, but I couldn't find any. If I come in here and I come in, you see it, I go in for loop. We have for each loop, for an array, and now I have a for loop. Okay. Well, this was not appearing last night. I don't know why exactly. There we go. I can just go ahead and disconnect this now. Like so. Why did that not break? There we go. Now that this is working properly, there we go. We can just pull in a for loop. And first index, 0, last index. If we say 11, that should give us a 12-digit password. But there we go. We can just go ahead and add that in there. And as you see, we have a, I just have a list here, an array, or a list, however you want to call it, of all my different characters. A random one is selected, becomes a piece of text, and I use a pen to attach two pieces of strings together. So I get whatever's inside of my password text box already, and I add this piece of text into it, whatever character we generated, and then the whole thing is converted into a string and set into the text. Alright. There you go. That'll do it for the Unreal portion here. And now we'll jump over and take a look at how we did this in Unity. I do just want to make one note here that with doing, if you actually have the for loop here, like you should, like I said, for whatever reason it wasn't working for me last night, you should have setting text here in between. So I'll just show you what that would look like. That way we can just clear it out by default, right? So we'll grab both of these, create a duplicate, bring it over, break that line, and just pass it in. There we go. And that should have your text clear out and then generate a new password in there. Just so you're not getting like 12 characters and then another 12 and then another 12. So you're quickly going from 12, 24, 36. Just figure I'd throw that in here, and since the for loop actually showed up now, I don't know why I did before. Again, let's jump over to Unity and take a look at C#. Alrighty, Unity. Well, you can see here's our little box here for a little test game. We can go ahead and test it out. We can come in. Oh, it was already running, my bad. We can come in. Let's give it a moment. Here we go. So now we can come in. We can go like Amazon banana breath at gmail.com. And we can go ahead and generate a password. We can hide it if we don't want to look at it. Go ahead and copy that, and we can go ahead and add that. Now, I didn't remove the text here, but obviously that's completely up to you if that's what you want to do. You probably should, but as you see, we go ahead, we use our search, and all the data pops up. Alright, so our Unity one works, and what I did here is I'm just using a 2D project for this. And you see I'm using a canvas for my UI, and I just went ahead and added a background. Then we have our lock image, website labels, our inputs, and if you're just wondering where these are from, I just right click on canvas, come down here to UI, and there's your image that we're using there. For text, I'm using the Text Mesh Pro, and button with the Text Mesh Pro is also what we're using here, and the input field for where our player can, or our user can type in our information. So those are the pieces that we're using, or that I used to create this. And I have a script on top of my canvas. So if I just go ahead and find right here, open this up, here it is. I know this might be a little hard, so let me just go ahead and zoom in for you guys there. I know you guys, some of you have complained the odd time about not being able to see. I don't know if it's just because of your monitor sizes or what, but there you go. I've enlarged that a bit to help you guys out. Now, what you're going to need here if you're using these is you're going to need to bring in TMP Pro or TM Pro here in order for this script to work. We're using a random variable here that I'll use later on for getting a random character from our list. We're starting out serialized field. I believe that makes it available here in the inspector. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've used Unity, but pretty sure there. And we're just going to call this a string with our square brackets, call it characters, and that's how we got our list or array here of string characters. You can obviously make it as long as you want, include whatever characters you want. There you go. And then we have 3 here for that are TMP input fields. And each of those is just representing our 3 boxes that the user can type in. So our website, the email, and password. Alright. Next up, we're using a data email and data password again as a dictionary. So we declare it a dictionary. Our key is a string. Our value is a string. We give it a name. And we set this equal to a new dictionary with string. Alright. And we do that again twice, one for the emails, one for our passwords. And now our clicks here. The way I've used these clicks is once this code is saved, you go ahead and create these functions. And then you can go into your buttons. So I come down here to my search button, for example. We can see this on click event here. And you just hit this plus button, open up this little box here, select whatever has your script, in my case the canvas, and then from the drop down here, you can come on down. This is, you can go ahead and find your script and find the function attached to it that is appropriate for that one. Alright, so that's all I did in order to connect all these functions up, so let's go ahead and take a look. So first up, we have our show and hide toggle button with a password. So we're doing an if check just like we did before. if the content type, which is our property there of the TMP input field for our password. So we're checking if that is equal to the password type, which means our thing is hidden already, right? So if password is true, then we're going to swap it to standard. Else, what we're going to do, if it's not password, then it must be standard. So if it's standard in our else block, we're going to set it to password here. And then I just call a force label update because I did see some information saying that these labels weren't updating. You could try that. Maybe it will for you. Yep. All right. So moving on, we have our generate button here. So inside of our generate button, we create a new string, just called new pass, to hold our generated password until we're ready to use it. And now we have our for loop here. Now, if you've never seen a for loop, this is how you do it in C#. So you declare your first indicator as an int. It's an integer. We're calling it I, starting at 0. And then we're basically saying if I, or while I, is less than 12, perform this piece of code. And at the end of it, we have I++, which is going to increase the count from 0 to 1, 2, 3, every time it goes through the block of code here between our curly braces. So if you've never seen a for loop in C#, hopefully that cleared that up. When we run in, we've got random that we declared up top, and we just set that to random.range, and this is going to be a random index value. So that's what we're going to use this number for, between 0 and the amount of characters that we have. If you remember that list that we created and we filled out inside the inspector, that's what this is going to represent. So once we have that random number, we set new pass plus equals. So we're going to append our randomly selected character here. We're getting the random index from our character list. So whatever character or symbol or letter that is selected here is going to be added onto our string called new pass. And once we've gone through this entire for loop and it ends, we're then going to get our input field in the text property and we'll set it to whatever that new password is. That's all we have to do for the generate function here in C#. Now for the add button, this is extremely simple. As you can see here, we just have 2 lines of text, or 2 lines of code, that's it. And all we're doing is we're getting our data email dictionary that we created. We're using add to add a new key value pair into it. And our key is whatever we got typed into our website. And the value here is going to be the email. And we do the same thing with our password dictionary here. We add a new key value pair. It is our website input. And the value obviously is going to be whatever password has been typed in. Alright, now with C# here for the search, this is simple again. We're just going to perform an if check, which we're basically just going to check if that value, or if that key, rather, exists inside of the thing already. Then we're going to get the information. Of course, you don't have to put that. It's just a little extra caution. Nothing will happen if you don't have that. I tried that. I had no errors and nothing popped up. Same without this block down here. No issues, but I just threw that in on my own. But here we go. So for the search, we check if inside of our data email, now you can use the email or password, doesn't matter. Because remember, our key is the website input. So either way, doesn't matter which one we use there, but we check if it contains the key of whatever we have typed inside that website box. And if it does, then that means we have, in this case, we have an email connected to it. And if we have that, because we know they both get connected, up here in our add button, we know that we also have a password. So we get our email text here, or our email box. grab the text property, and we set that equal to our data email dictionary, and we get the key of whatever's inside of our website box. And then we do the same thing with our password input. We get that password box, grab the text property, and set that equal to our data password, with the key being whatever's in that website box. And of course, here you can see in the else, I'm just printing out with debug log to the console saying this key does not exist. But that's it. That's all we have to do here for Unity if you want to use C# for something like this. Now, what I should mention here is Unity and Unreal, especially Unreal, is way overkill for an application like this. We have so much rendering potential that it's just not even being touched on. So, though you could use it, especially when you're considering something like Unreal, consider just using the C++ language if you can, or if that's what you were using prior. Consider just using that, or using another language, maybe an easier language like Python. But if for whatever reason you really wanted to make a graphical interface application with something like Unreal or Unity, you can. It's just overkill, and if you tell someone, they're probably going to look at you and wonder why. Alright, so that covers our Unity portion and our Unreal portion. Now, I know some of you might have been a little disappointed with blueprints. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to... I know some of you might have been a little disappointed with blueprints, and you might have been expecting some C++, but I actually have a GitHub repository where I've created some of this same password manager multiple times in different languages here. So we have AGK and Basic, which is their tier 1. I already have C++ here. We have C++ with the AGK headers, which is AGK tier 2 is what they call it. I have the C# code here that you just saw from Unity. I have this written in Dart using Flutter. We've also obviously got GDScript and Python here. And then we have the widget blueprint that I threw up there. So if I just open up some C++ here real quick. Now I'll probably have to zoom this in for you. Oh, no. We still have nice and large. I'm going to say not now. But this is what the C++ equivalent would look like. So we're including our main header. We're including map because we need the map, of course. You saw us use that for dictionaries. Our standard namespace. And you can see us creating our buttons up top here. Our password hide is set to false. A string for our map here, so this is our database. In this case, I just use one database to hold both my password and email. Alpha num here, these are all my characters that I plan to use. So I have my symbols and my characters, upper and lowercase. The string length, size of alpha num -1. And then here we go. This is our main section that we have all this stuff set up. So you can see there's a lot that a lot more that you'll be doing if you use pure code, but it's going to be a little more fitting compared to using, again, an engine like Unreal. That would be hugely overkill, of course. Completely up to you, but I'll give you one example here. Our add button. So we're going to our database. We're getting the value of m_text1, which if we looked up here, is this one. And that's there we go. So if I go into my main header that I brought in, We can see these are where our click events are all registered, and our buttons here are all labeled. So mtext1 takes a text control, null pointer. It's a lot. But point is, like on our hide here, you can see password hide. If it's false, so our password is not hidden, we're just moving. In this case, I'm just moving things off screen and moving the other one on screen. So one says hide, one says show. And then I'm clearing the text, and I'm adding new text into it, and setting true to our password to true, password hide to true. So you see, it looks a lot more complicated, but just in case any of you were disappointed and were hoping for some C++, there you go. If there's something you wanted to see, you can go ahead and pause it at any point. But there you go. There's Unreal. There's Unity. You got to see how to do this with blueprints, how to do it in C#, and you got a quick view there of C++. Hopefully I remember, and I'll put a link to that GitHub repo in the description. So if you wanted to check that out or see some other languages and do a little bit of comparison there, you'll have that option. But alright, this video is getting really long at this point, but that'll do it. Take care, have yourselves a good one. If there's something that you want to see specifically, leave a comment down below. And